I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is the video version of Cinema Classics.
It sure is.
You can hear us on the radio station, 90.5 WCBE, Thursday nights at 8:01, or you can just listen online. Our first topic today we talked about were murder mysteries.
Yeah.
We're using...
Now, why are we doing it?
Well, Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express remake, currently in theaters.
Yep.
So we started thinking about what our favorite murder mysteries of all time were.
Yeah, and I've already have a picture here of my favorite.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
I knew you were going to do this to me. I knew that you were gonna get involved. You're gonna start spouting off titles that aren't really murder mysteries.
I mean, there are murders here, and we don't know who did it.
Does not a murder mystery make? More of a suspense film. So that was an interesting thing that we stumbled upon, the difference between a mystery and a suspense film, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the classic murder mystery is a murder has been done. There are multiple suspects, sometimes a lot of them, in an enclosed space, like Murder on the Orient Express. Sometimes not so much. So if you think about, if you think about the Maltese Falcon or something, there's a bunch of shady characters moving around a different landscape. And it's the detective's job to figure out who did it, right? Now,
the best example being, or not the best, but maybe the most famous being Chinatown.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
I'd like to just clarify what you're saying.
Yeah.
To clarify the difference between suspense and murder mystery is that suspense, frequently we know who the perp is.
We either know or we have a pretty good idea.
Right.
You know, we used Rear Window as an example, right? So I love that idea because we have a pretty good idea that Lars Thorwald murdered his wife across the way.
Great.
He either did not or did do it, right? So the suspense in Rear Window, anyway, is figuring out if he did.
Yeah. So you'd be reluctant to call it a murder mystery, but easily call it a suspense, and I like that. I like that distinction.
Now, see, isn't it interesting when you start to think about suspense films with a mystery element, and then vice versa, mystery films with a suspense element? You had mentioned Dial M for Murder.
Sure. Yep. So we're pretty clear about the perp there. We just don't know how it's going to work out. And isn't it the same? It's funny how we come back to Hitchcock, but isn't it the same with Strangers on the Train?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's suspenseful because we want to see how that plays out, but yet
it's not a murder mystery.
Right. It's not. We see them. We see the bad guys, and we know what's happening. The suspense is, will the good guy become a bad guy? Da da da.
Yeah, that is a suspense film.
Yes.
But Branagh, having remade this movie, goes to, you mentioned some more recent films, Mystic River.
Yes.
I don't know so much.
Well, one that's not so, but Zodiac, but that, again, see, that's a serial killer film. It's almost like a subgenre. It's more about the investigation. It's true, but
not necessarily the mystery.
That has both elements because we don't know who the murderer is.
Right.
And so we do have that element. We have both thriller. You can have both of those. What about Memento?
Yeah, a mystery, but yeah, I guess it is a murder mystery in a way, right?
It's just so odd because it begins at the ending, and because he has such a memory flaw.
Yeah, that one trick there, that Christopher Nolan-esque trick of the mind, where he has no short-term memory and has to keep tattooing clues onto his body.
Yeah, right. And some standards. Well, you mentioned The Big Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got some of those film noir-ish detective stories, which I think are murder mysteries.
Yeah.
What about M?
Yeah, you mentioned that. The Fritz Lang movie.
Yeah.
With Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
That goes way back. What is that, 1930?
Yeah,
what is it?
I don't have the date.
Oh, you don't have the date.
No.
Terrific. Yeah, there are... what I was starting to say, though, is with Branagh doing this, putting this sort of old school... I think the last time this movie was made was the 70s. It was like 1978.
Albert Finney.
Yeah, Albert Finney played Hercule Poirot. And, you kind of miss that stuff, right? That's what this movie looks fun.
Well, it's such a romantic flair to it. Contemporary murder mysteries have become pretty bloody business.
Mm-hmm.
It is not so 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It is the character. It is the tricks. It's all of that, but it's not visually bloody. I don't think in any of them.
Right. Which brings us to our next topic, our next video, which is going to be a discussion of Hitchcock's 7852, because that, which is a breakdown of the shower scene, right? You're talking about bloody. Audiences in 1960 saw one of the most horrifying acts of violence ever rendered on film, and yet it really isn't.
No.
I mean, not. But it certainly opened the floodgates for violence, right? Because as we just talked about the goriest scenes a couple of weeks ago, and how that movie, Bone Tomahawk, was one of the worst things.
Yeah.
Can you imagine audiences in 1960 seeing that?
But in 1960, the most they could expect was hot chocolate going down a drain.
Yeah. Now, since we're briefly talking about Psycho here, Psycho, is that a mystery?
Meaning? Is Psycho a mystery? Ah! Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is not certain until the end that he's really whacked out.
Right.
However, yeah, because Hitchcock it makes it ambivalent for us as to whether who is it the mother come back. I mean, there's
we don't
always
know
a
that
question.
she's dead. We don't
Right.
even know she's dead. We believe
Right.
she's alive up in that house.
That's right. Yeah.
She's walking around silhouetted up in that window. You hear the conversations happening.
And in fact,
it's not really. I mean, I think we just assume it is the mother.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, and somehow the murder itself is not the end game. Really, what's happening is trying to figure out who the murderer is. In other words, I don't see the murder as central, but I do see the characterization and the psychology, psycho, as being the centerpiece of that film.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting, when you pin me down to a very specific definition, that's where I begin.
Yeah.
That's why I'm now good on multiple choice exams. I like to.
Well, see, when you had brought up originally as the topic of conversation, murder mysteries, based on Murder on the Orient Express, I was thinking more along the lines of like Clue.
Yes,
like that kind of thing.
yeah.
But it is funny how quickly that those boundaries break down. So anyway, murder mysteries. Check out Murder on the Orient Express in theaters. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it.
Yeah, me too.
And then, of course, there's so many great ones.
If not, you can always have a great evening watching Basic Instinct.